Hello and welcome to Bendy, a podcast about being flexible and all the ways that means. Thanks for joining us. My name is Andy Young and I'm one of your contentious, antagonistic hosts. Joining me as always is our other contentious and antagonistic host, Beth Martin. Beth, a pleasure as always. What's the crack?
That's like the two words that like really don't describe either of us at all.
Not even a little bit. It's really made me laugh.
Spoiler alert, everyone.
Da, da, da.
Da, da, da.
But we'll maybe have some success stories in here. We were just talking about this ahead of time.
Yeah.
So it's not all bad news.
No. I am like, I'm in a funk. I feel like I was in a funk last time too. So it's just like a continuation of the funk. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if it's because we've had one cloudy day in Southern California.
Well, boo. Oh, everybody.
I know. But like too busy, I think, and like pushing my body too hard and too far. And so I'm in a, for anyone who cares, I have fibromyalgia and I'm in a fibromyalgia flare. So I'm in pain and I'm crabby and I'm not sleeping and I'm just like fighting for care, which is always like my least favorite thing to do. I know people can relate, fighting for healthcare.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at.
And this stands for both of our countries. It's a country that does not like sick people, basically. It wants people to be working, productive, paying taxes.
Yes. So, and I'm like none of those things right now. And I'm trying to dig myself out of that hole. But it's like, but then I keep falling. It's bodies are just weird. They're just weird.
They are. And was it like, they say something like, everybody is like one medical crisis away from being, in dire straits, essentially, like,
it's true.
Financially, but it's like, it's not built in. And I remember reading a while back that, there's a word for it. I'm going to see if I can find it. But, in the early 1900s, there was almost a period of time where it's like, okay, yeah, you know what, this person just needs a few months off because they're like on the verge of a breakdown. Whereas like the course correction for that these days seems to be, right, can you somehow work harder maybe and like push through things that way, like sacrifice your weekends and your evenings as well. Okay.
So. I'm lucky in that I have a partner who's so supportive of like every crisis that I go through. And like I was like crying to him this morning. I'm like, he's like, why did we move here? Like, this is why I work from home. I can get the kids. You just focus on, talk to Andy. You'll feel better.
Yeah.
So thank you. I feel like I should pay you for this session.
That'd be great.
Dr. Young.
If you could, that'd be awesome. Thank you.
Sure. I'll wire it to
you. No, of course, obviously, always, off our own pod.
Yeah. How are you?
Not bad. I think one of the reasons why I'm in decent shape in a minute is I had a cull of shit over the past week. So I have 2 full black bags of clothes donated to charity. I have 2 big boxes of books that I have either read or I'm like, I'm not ever going to read this, that were just cluttering up shelves that I've got rid of. So I've got like shelves in my room that are now like useful. I've got stuff that I want to read on them and I'm actively using them. And it was painful. These things always are, I think. But like, I think once I get going with this stuff, I'm fairly ruthless and I really kind of like pretty aggressively discarded loads of crap. So it was very satisfying.
That's good. We did that with the kids' rooms too. And it should have been like an episode of Hoarders. It was like, I think between the 2 kids' rooms, we probably pulled out like 12 bags of garbage.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Madness.
I found like Mike's socks.
Oh, wow.
And she was like, no, I'm going to make those into Barbie dresses. And I'm like, ew. His old used socks with holes.
Like, I feel like as a kid, the idea of like throwing stuff away is insanity. It's like, no, I need that plastic thing they got from McDonald's that's broken, because maybe I'll need it. How do I know?
I remember my sister is a Virgo and I'm a Libra, and I like I'm much better now. I'm like a little probably like I'm on the cleaner side of the Libra. But like I was a slob as a child, and I remember like my sister as a Virgo is very tidy and clean, and she would like go in and clean my room.
Oh,
And she was
really?
like, I think this was like third grade, and she was like, yeah, I cleaned out under your bed, and I found like insurance forms.
Oh,
You
yikes.
know, I know for
Oh,
like
I
life
love it.
insurance policies. Like, why would I? Like, yeah, who knows?
How interesting.
I was playing
What,
Office. I just
what
needed
age were
to
you
like.
then?
I was like third grade.
What?
But I had a typewriter and I needed paper probably,
Yeah,
you
that was
know?
probably it.
Like
It's
who
like
knows?
this is fine. This is paper.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was very satisfying. I also have Beth, you'll remember whenever you came to visit me, I walk two golden retrievers.
I do. It's one of my I think about it probably more often than I should
Yeah.
when I think about like hard things.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nightmare. So like like those dogs are, and I say this with experience because I've walked a lot of different dogs. Their strength is ludicrous. They're extremely strong dogs. And like that's individually, and I walk two of them at the same time. So, and I know them well enough, and I've walked dogs, and I'm kind of good at kind of paying attention to what they're doing. So whenever they do suddenly both dash forwards, I can like
Throw
lean
your
back,
body
engage my
backwards.
core, and like and hold them. I don't think they haven't, those two haven't slipped away from me at all. I don't think any dog has, actually. Anyway, but this past week I went to see the lady who owns them. Her son walks them. They kind
She's
of
so cute.
She is. They kind of both own those dogs. And that morning, her son had walked them, and he's a little smaller than me. They had pulled him so hard they took him off his feet. They dragged him along the ground, scraping up his face and arm. They scraped him through dog shit.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
No. So it is to the extent that they are now wondering whether they need to rehome them because it just
Wow.
they might be too much of a handful, and they are, especially because they're so.
They're brothers, right?
Yes, they are.
So they're from the same litter. She didn't
Yeah.
want to, but like together they're like the opposite of the Wonder Twins. They're like the Disaster Twins.
They are. I mean,
And they
like,
just like pee on each other's faces.
yes, they do. It's golden showers all day, and they I would say that on like when I talk about them, I do actually have a fondness for these dogs, and they are not aggressive at all. But that's where the good news stops, and it's all bad news after that. Really, they're just chaos engines, both of them. But like, so like they, as I say, they are looking for a new home for them currently, which is
Sad.
yeah. So yeah, so if anybody who's listening
Needs
lives in
to-
Ireland wants two fucking chaotic golden retrievers,
they need a
reach out.
farm
They
to
do.
be able to just like run whenever they want
They
and
do.
like eat wherever they can and like
but like it needs to be like a farm that is well fenced in because they would escape. And
They would
just
escape.
They
Do
would just
whatever they wanna
go
do.
rogue. Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So that was
they'd,
that was
yep.
an
They'd
interesting.
be good
one.
island dogs.
They would be good island dogs. Yeah, on a small island. And I mean, they'd probably try to swim as well. Like, I mean, they're freaking maniacs. But yeah, so that's been fun. And like I was going to put this in bringing me joy, but I feel like I've got something else for that. But like I have been also continuing to enjoy Twin Peaks. I'm in season 2 now.
Ooh.
Like I kind of get the idea based on what I've kind of read that I think very vaguely that season 2 is when it gets really weird. So like I'm already starting to see that.
There's only 2 seasons, right?
Yes, there is. There was also a third season in like 2017. So like
That's right.
Yeah, and also the movie, of course. So yeah, but really still enjoying it. I think it's great. I'm really excited to see watch season 2 as well. I'm also nearly finished Normal People finally.
So good.
Yeah, it's fantastic. I don't want to say this because I feel like people will think I'm like bigging myself up, but like I really kind of relate to Connell a lot.
There's a reason I wanted you to watch it.
Yeah,
Because I saw a lot of you in him.
yeah.
A lot of you in him.
There's like a...
And also, like, the book doesn't... I will say Paul Mescal pulled out more character than you actually got from the book.
Interesting. Yeah. I'm keen to read the book after watching this, but like, and I also like, my heart breaks for Marianne more and more as it goes on. Like, so yeah, I'm excited for the end of that. I'm like 9 episodes into like a 12 episode run, I think. So yeah, I'm excited to see where it all goes. But it's really, really great. So yeah,
I usually watch like I'm not going to give anything away. Just watch it.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we can talk. Then we can have an episode about normal people.
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully not. I should be done next week.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's all I have for What's the Crack this week. Do you have any What's Occurring?
I don't. Not for this week.
Okay. So I kind of do.
You do.
So I am currently preparing for a D&D campaign. I have had friends have asked me to like run one next year, which I'm really excited for. So I'm like starting to figure out what I wanted to do. I bought like a sort of collection of PDFs that have like single session kind of adventures just for ideas. I'm probably going to use some of them. I'm also going to like lift some stuff from various ones if I'm building my own thing. And one of the modules that came with it was called Tales from the Emerald Isle. And it was D&D campaigns all influenced by Ireland and Irish myth. Right? And I have learned so much. Also, I just didn't see this comment. It's a stealthy turnip date. There is a section. There is part of one of the adventures where you have to deliver turnips. That's one of the storylines.
Oh my gosh.
And so there is just a section, and the title is Turnips. There were no pumpkins in ancient Ireland. Turnips were the original warding vegetable. And I'm like, whoa. And literally, you have to deliver turnips. If some of the villagers are having trouble carving their turnips, you can make a skill check to help them carve their turnips and things like that. So it's a whole thing. Very funny.
You're so hip. We were so ahead of the game.
Right.
Or maybe we're late to the game.
Indeed. There was another, and like, because it was kind of relevant to one of the episodes we did in the past few weeks, because like, and I, again, oh yeah, 2 things. I think you'll love both of these. So the first one is that Irish mythology holds that Samhain, that at Samhain, the boundaries between worlds become permeable. Fey creatures can cross into our realm, and we can venture into theirs if we are brave or foolish enough.
I like that. Brave and or foolish.
Yeah. Or a little bit of both, right? And the other one, and it makes a note here because I've heard this before, but I thought you would love this because I don't think I've told you about it. So fairy forts are still found. So fairy forts in modern Ireland. So there's fairy forts are still found throughout Ireland. Like, and there, I think there is what is it? I can't remember. There's I think hawthorn trees or whatever or represent kind of fairy forts. Anyway. In one famous case in 1999, so pretty recently, the path of a new highway, the M18 in County Clare, was diverted to avoid destroying a ferry fort after a local warned that destroying the ferry fort would make that section of the highway unsafe. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah.
I love it when people believe the folklore.
Yeah,
and
it's
like,
amazing.
Yeah, it's like Mike's like never move a tiki freaking out,
yeah,
because he like in French Polynesia like really really bad luck, taboo, but like the idea of like diverting an entire highway,
right?
Because the fairies would like
would cause accidents and shit.
Yeah, and like here it's like, oh we'll a sacred burial ground. Oh, we'll move it. We'll dig it up and move them. We'll move them. It's so funny.
Wild. I mean, that's I my understanding is that because I was told this story at the Fire Festival I was at earlier on this year, is that like literally the highway just because it's like a straight line and then it kind of curves around and then it goes into a straight line again, so it literally is.
So when you drive that, just be like, thank you, fairies.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Giving you a wee bit of variation in your drive.
Right. Make sure you're awake.
Exactly. Yeah. So yeah, so I just thought that was fun finding that
That's
stuff
good.
as I was preparing for this, you know. So
I
yeah.
love that like you've lived in Ireland your whole life and you're like 40 whatever and it took a D&D expansion pack for you to know
I
the
know.
folklore behind these things.
You know, I will never. But this is how I love finding information. I don't like to seek it out. I like it just to arrive to me.
Right.
You know.
Right.
Oh, okay,
Right.
that's interesting. You know.
Yeah, people call that synchronicity.
Yeah, exactly.
Uh-huh. Or laziness.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, a little bit of column A, a little bit of column B, probably a lot more of column B, right? Yeah. So yeah, that was my what's occurring for
That's
this
good.
week.
I like it.
Thanks.
I'm impressed.
Thank you.
Life learning. Look at you go.
Exactly. I'll keep doing it. Damn always. I'm going to keep learning. Nothing you can do about it.
Right? Do you want to talk about why our title is what it is for the episode?
Yeah, okay. So, I'm pricing already, but the title for this episode is Confronting Confrontation, Confrontation for Quitters. Because Beth and I both came up with one half of that, and because we don't like
we're both like,
confrontation.
we like both of them. And Annie's like, why don't we just put in a colon?
Yeah.
And I was like, well, that just spells out exactly the type of people that we are.
100%. And should probably be a spoiler for what's to come when we talk about confrontation in this episode. But it should also be clear that I really like tortured long titles as well, with like, you know, abbreviations and stuff. So it's,
You really do.
It all works out nicely.
Whatever makes you happy.
Well, exactly, and that's all that matters at the end of the day, right? So yeah, so I think so the topic I say this week is confrontation. So I'm not going to mention the other one that Beth kind of sent me through something around the same sort of time as I sent her confrontation, and it's in a similar sort of area, so our minds were both in that sort of place. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably fair to say that most people don't like confrontation, but I am kind of interested to get your thoughts on it and just kind of how you feel about it, and experiences with it and stuff like that as well.
So I think generally it's not my favorite thing ever, but
No.
in the States, I don't know if you guys have this term, but people kind of pride themselves on being what's called brutally honest, or having brutal honesty.
Yeah.
Like, that's just my personality. I'm just brutally honest. And like, you get what you get kind of thing. And I think that covers or like coats and puts a veneer on the idea of being confrontational and making it like more of like a positive attribute.
It's true.
And I don't know if I necessarily agree that that is a positive attribute to have.
Yeah.
Not that like the other side being, you know, like a lying dipshit or whatever. Like I get I get that. But I think that there are more I think there are more probably confrontational Americans than there are in our culture. Like, I think we do have more probably than you do in yours.
I think that sort of behavior's been like lionized a little bit, and it's also like, you know, especially with like in the dawning of reality TV, those personalities are the ones that stand out, and it's almost become a attribute, like a, you know, that will be valuable to you in terms of you forging out a career, which fucking sucks, honestly, because it spreads that message out into the world. I think it is then, you know, really infected those sort of people who want to make money from being like an influencer or blah, blah, blah. Just that like shitty behavior is, you know...
You get paid.
Yes, you can get paid for it, which is fucking awful. Like the one that I really kind of remember hating was, I mean, like this is quite a while ago now, was... Bam Margera's TV show, which was just him being like deeply unpleasant to people, and I'm like, who is this for? But like, it was successful, you know, it did well for him. So
I watched it. I remember it was like the one where he was like getting married, and he burned his wife's wedding dress before they got married. And she was like, haha, joke's on you. I have a backup one because I knew you were probably going to do this. And I was just like, ew.
Yeah, what is your life? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's, it sucks.
But I did watch it because he would torture his dad and like wake his parents up at like 4 a.m. with like their heavy metal band or whatever. But
yes.
Yeah, I also am guilty of watching like the Real Housewives shows.
Absolutely.
And that's nuts. It's like they're actually friends with each other. They're contractually they have to spend time with each other. And the one that's craziest and most like out there and most confrontational is usually the one that, is on every season.
Yeah, and that's so true.
The money that they make and like the brand deals that they get and, just like, oh, and like now you can shop on my Amazon page and now I have a book out and it's crazy. Yeah, that bad behavior is completely rewarded with money and power and influence.
It's something that's just occurred to me. I hadn't even written this down just as you were saying that, which is many years ago, like I think I was in my early 20s. I did which course was this? I think this was a journalism night class, and it was just to learn how journalism works and blah blah blah. And one part of that was we got to go to a radio station and listen to like in one evening and we could like hang out and watch this radio presenter do his thing. And the guy that was doing it, who is like he's a guy called Stephen Nolan, and if you're from Northern Ireland you probably know who that is. He's probably one of our biggest radio presenters. He's got a reputation as being kind of a prick now, and I think probably that has always been the case, but he so we went to see him, and he at that point was doing a more local radio station, and he would have on guys every night, and he would kind of like get into it with them. And the person that was on, I can't remember what it was exactly. It was either something about aliens or something about conspiracy theories, and this would have been back in the day when those things were less sort of heated and like controversial. Mm-hmm. And I remember those two getting into it, really sparring, him really kind of asking him some really like spiky questions. And then the ad breaks went on and they were just joking and laughing, and he was like having a bit of a laugh with him and then ad breaks went off and went back into the spiky confrontational questions, and I was like, oh wow, you're completely full of shit. Which is one of the most interesting lessons I learned from that sort of course.
That's interesting. I wonder what happens like on the Real Housewives when the cameras go down.
This is the thing, yeah. And like I suppose at the end of the day they're just trying to be remembered, and if you go really big you might. So but it's what really bothers me about that stuff is that it's like obviously there is a level of gloss and unreality to these things, but there's still people's lives that you're impacting with this stuff, even if like, and they're like getting hit by somebody screaming at you or whatever has like a mental impact. It can't not
only that, but they're always out at like these really nice restaurants. And, like, to be a diner in the restaurant where there's, like, a housewives fight and they're all, like, screaming and, like, throwing glass. And, like, I would be super pissed.
Yeah.
I'd be like, they need to pay for my fucking meal.
100%.
I just want to talk about puppies. Like,
that's very true, actually. Yeah, that's wildly inconsiderate of anybody else who's around you. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'd like to think they book at the restaurant for those things, but you're right. They probably don't. They want an audience.
I mean, yeah, they do. They do. They want the shocked, and a lot of people, like, they let their faces be seen looking horrified, because you have to sign a waiver in order to have your face on television. So
that's a good point. I know that, like, I've heard people talk. I mean, it's been primarily people, a lot of the podcasts I listen to are based in America. A lot of them are LA based, and like some of the folks there, like, they're all comedians for the most part, have worked crappy jobs in the past, and the story that you hear all too often is whenever they work in supermarkets or the service industry in any sort of rich neighborhood, how they get treated is significantly worse than if they get, you know, into a middle class neighborhood or lower, you know what I mean? People just
Yep.
treat you like you are a fucking vending robot for their fucking needs. Kind of grim.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what do you hate most about confrontation? Or like, what is it like when you're in? Because it happens, right? You're in a moment having a hard conversation with somebody. Like, what do you feel and what do you hate most?
Like, I struggle. Like, I need preparation for a lot of things. Like, I really struggle if like something just happens to me in the moment. It will like completely wrong foot me. Like, my adrenaline spikes. I feel my hands shaking. I feel my pulse going. I just like want to run away, you know, and like you can't a lot of the time. Like, that will literally happen to me I if people take me by surprise. If I'm out in the world and like somebody taps me on the shoulder and I'm just like my brain's like, oh fuck, I can't talk to a person right now. What the fuck? And like I will almost like you'll see me like fucking glitching out like a fucking error screen in a robot. Um, so like these things happen to me all the time, not even confrontation. So that is, I think, what I struggle with the most is that I immediately get into that place. If it lasts long enough, either A, I kind of know a confrontation is coming, or I can settle that a little bit. I can push back, and I can, you know, I won't just like lie down under whatever this thing that's being said, but in the heat of the moment, it's just very difficult for me to like maintain any sort of, you know, struggle or self-respect. You know.
Yeah. Yeah, I like for me like I feel cornered usually like
Mm-hmm.
if it gets to that point like you know cuz I'm pretty good about avoiding confrontation in general, but like it takes a lot for someone to really confront me about anything, I think, cuz I'm like a butterfly. Like I will run away as much as possible and as fast
Yep.
as I can. So I think we're both like, do you fight or flight? Like we're both like out of there,
Yeah.
which is funny. Sometimes like in a confrontation, like I'll be in the wrong.
Yeah.
And so like I have that like immediate feeling of shame and like anger at myself. Like my body will feel cold. I'll just kind of like get really cold, like not cold, but I almost like levitate out of my body.
Yeah.
And I kind of just like I can see from above like what's happening, and it's like I disassociate. I mean, it's probably disassociation.
Mm-hmm.
And then like afterwards, if it's like I'm not in the wrong and I like someone has confronted me about something and like they were incorrect in this confrontation or how they're feeling or whatever, like I can't come back from it. And like it'll take me a long time to forgive and forget, which is a problem, I think, maybe because it's affected some relationships. And
Yeah.
like if I know someone, you know, is, you know, brutally honest, like I'm kind of like, all right, I'll give myself a lot of distance. And it takes me a while to forgive and forget.
Yeah. That's an interesting point. It's like it's something I think about, and I mean, there's other human sort of reactions or behaviors that I think this also applies to. But to me, like when confrontation has happened, it's probably a failure of communication somewhere along the line, you know. And I think all too often it comes from a place of people maybe feeling that their boundaries have been trampled, or that something that they expected to happen hasn't happened, and they are reacting emotionally in the moment. And rather than going, can I just talk to you about something like that's bothered me? I hope you know, they like scream at you or they really forcefully say, "Hey,
Yeah.
blah blah blah," and to me it solves nothing at all. It really doesn't. You know, it's just a I think more often than not, it will just cause the situation you're talking about where it has lasting impacts on friendships or relationships for no reason. It's just because you have decided to react to this thing emotionally. The person who's doing the confronting has decided to react emotionally rather than, have an open and honest conversation with somebody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I absolutely agree. And I think, I do know a few people that kind of thrive on it.
Yes.
And I'm just like, what is it about? Do you know people that thrive on it? And like, what do you think that they get out of it?
I think it's almost like weaponized in some way by people. I think people know that I think most people react with surprise and do the fight or flight thing and probably react with flight. I think most people do.
Yeah.
And I think some people weaponize that to get what they want or to, try to force something into like a certain sort of, arrangement. It's one of the reasons why if somebody's trying to sell me something, I always like to sleep on it. Going back to sales, my favorite. Because I need to get out of that space and go, okay, let me look at this from the different angles and come back to it,
Yeah, I think it's like, I think there's a power element to it. I think that just given my experience, I think that there's probably like an adrenaline aspect to it.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit of a high that somebody gets.
It's good. Yeah.
Because I was thinking about it and I'm like, what, like, at the base level, what is it? And it's probably like it makes them feel good at the time, to be like rah 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 rah, or like to make the other person feel small. And it's weird. Like I was thinking, like, what confrontation have I experienced in the last week? And like, I know I talk about the kid pickup line all the time, but so I was at the pickup line, and there's like it's a cul-de-sac. Do you guys have cul-de-sacs?
We do.
Okay, so. And there's a little fence and these little kids come out and all the little cars line up and it's very like mellow. And I was standing there and I hear this guy being like, what the fuck? You fucking asshole. Look where the fuck you're going. And like everyone turns, my 8-year-old is standing next to me and it's this guy on a bike who's like, I don't know what he was doing, but these cars are like in a line going through the cul-de-sac and this guy was just like driving his car along the edge of the cul-de-sac and like the biker freaked out at him. And it wasn't like he was driving in a driveway. I don't know what he was doing, but that's what he chose to do.
Wow.
And there's kids everywhere.
Yeah.
And so like an hour later, I'm in my car by myself and I'm thinking of all the things I wanted to say.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah.
And I was like, I should have said like, no one saw you, not even me knew you were there, but all the kids can hear you.
Yeah. And what was he like? Did he live there or what was he? Because I know what you're talking about because I was there when
he was like biker
you.
guy. He was like the guy with the fake sponsor outfit on with the clip pedals,
Well, such a wow, okay.
You know what I'm talking about?
I do know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. I think to some people, and it's like I think it comes from the environment that people have grown up in a lot of the time.
I agree with that.
I think that sucks that that's the environment that you've grown up in. But if that's the communication style that you have seen throughout your life, it's often going to be the one that you continue to use, sadly.
Yeah. It was just interesting, like, the choice that he made, even though he was surrounded by children.
Yeah.
And granted, like, you don't want to skid and hit somebody when you're on a bicycle.
No.
Like, I get that, like, but also, like... be aware of your surroundings. Anyways, that was just one example.
I think like that's such a one where if I was cycling and I would people don't make good decisions all the time in that regard because you see if that's a high stress time for people. There's kids around cars. Everybody's like looking for all sorts of angles. It's easy to miss things. Do you know what I mean? That's a time if I was on a bike, I would almost be like, okay, I'm getting off the bike, I'm walking past this bit, do you know what I mean? And then getting back on the bike because this is just asking for trouble. Not to put like the blame on anybody in particular, but I think you've got to like look at these situations and go, okay, what's the best thing for me to do here? You know, I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's interesting. I think a bit about my kind of life growing up as I was putting this together, and I know that a lot of my kind of feeling this comes from my mum, because I remember her, you know, going to I remember distinctly when I was quite younger, her getting something in a restaurant or a cafe or whatever, and it was wrong, and she was like, I'm just going to eat the wrong thing. I'm not, because I don't want to confront, or I don't want to like get into it with people. And that really informed how I kind of dealt with life for a long time. But I'm like so much better now in terms of, if something's not quite right, just saying it in a like, oh, excuse me, no, I actually ordered this, like, sorry to bother you, but I ordered the other thing, could I get that? And see if you're kind about it, and they'll be like, oh yeah, because mistakes happen, you know.
Yeah.
So I think it's interesting, because I think I have 100% done the same thing in my 20s and my 30s, just being like, oh, this is not the thing that I want, but I'm not going to cause any trouble. I don't want to like say to somebody, I don't want to make somebody angry with me, you know. So I think that like,
interesting.
I don't know if that counts as confrontation. I don't think it does. I think
it's an example of like avoiding confrontation.
Yes, but like in a healthy way, if I would be allow myself to call it that.
Yes. Yes. I think acknowledging like the humanity and the human aspect of just like something, you know, I didn't get what I needed. Can you get me the thing that I needed, right?
Yeah. And also understanding that mistakes happen and it's no big deal. You know what I mean? Yeah.
And like that happens occasionally, like at restaurants. And I want to model like positive behavior and make people feel, you know, like show the kids that like, I'm always like, if you like when they get their jobs when they're a teenager or whatever, they have to work in the food industry.
Yeah.
For 3 months. That's like, I don't care what you do. You can scoop ice cream. You can, you know, but you have to work in the food industry, because those who have not, you can tell.
Yes.
You can tell.
Like a tour of duty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Basically.
Like
yeah.
I love it. Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. That's the sort of national service that I would like to see. Just making people work. You know? Just to give you an idea. These are all people. All of them are people. Be kind, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I took you on the Midway, and I was like, if you guys ever like worked in an industrial kitchen, like washing dishes, like this is what the machine is like. And you know, I can't remember what job was I washing dishes. I think it was in college. Mm-hmm. Maybe it was like I was a camp counselor. I don't remember. But it's like it definitely makes you appreciate.
I'm really grateful. I have not, like, I've worked in supermarkets, so I have actually had to deal with the general public quite a lot. And I also worked in that like pawn store I've told you about before in like a job episode, and it was like there was a lot of chaotic customers in there. But like I think that, because like, you know, especially food service industry, I think that's an extra level above based on people I've talked to who've worked in those things. I wonder, is it because people get more emotional around food, or don't want people fucking with whatever they expect to get food wise, you know? But it seems that is a level beyond even that, you know, but even beyond like supermarket work and things that I have done. So yeah, I'm happy that I never did it in a lot of ways, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So, well, you're also just a nice person. So there's that.
I'm nice. I've got a nice I've got a nice outer shell. Right?
Yeah. So okay, let's talk about yourself. So when do you feel the need to stand up and like actually have confrontation?
It happens so rarely for me. I mean,
and he's looking like blank. He's like,
I know.
Yeah.
Though you know what I have noticed, that I am better at actually doing things than other people. So I have a great example of this recently, where it's like I went to the movies recently. It was when I was going to see Joker 2, and it was like 15 minutes past when the movie had started. It was due to start. The screen was blank. There was no sound on. There was 20 people in there before me, sitting there doing nothing. As soon as I realized it, I walked out. I told the person, and I came back in. Like, it's such a Northern Irish, pretty UK thing for people just to sit there and like let either nothing happen.
Wait.
Yeah, just wait. You know, whereas I'm quite
leave.
good. Yeah, and I don't think that counts as confrontation, but like it's me going, right, somebody needs to do something about this. I know most people won't do anything about it, so I am happy to be the one to do that, you know. I think that in terms of actual confrontation though, it probably does coincide with me losing my temper on the very, very rare occasions that has happened. And like, see what really drives me insane is that whenever that does happen with me, people are always like, Andy, I don't expect that out of you. And I'm like, do you see the shit that's caused me to get there? And I'm the one who's getting shit. And that just gets me more angry. But like, it is so rare. And like, but though I've got to say, some of the people I've lost my temper with are like some of my still people I've got a really close bond with. Because like, they understand that it's because I give a shit that I do. I mean, it was one of the times it was because I was doing one of my friends in Australia. Like he like you have to do your taxes at a certain point to claim all your tax back because you're not a Australian citizen. You're there as a temporary worker, etc., etc. And I was like, I'm gonna help you do this because I know that you won't do it. And I sat down to do it with him, and he was just such a dick to me. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck you. So yeah, that was a worthwhile time in me confronting somebody. It's really whenever like I feel, and I mean, you know, maybe I forced that on him, but also I kind of did it because I cared and because I knew that he is a chaotic person and needed every penny he could get. You know, so it's times like that, I guess, that have really pushed me into confrontation.
For me, I think it's more like if I will speak out if I see something happening.
Mm-hmm.
Like this was a few years ago, I was out to dinner, walking around like town with my best friend, and there was a racial incident that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was screaming at these kids who were yelling slurs that they should not have been yelling.
Yikes.
In a public place or anywhere ever. And I was like, I'm gonna getting your picture and I'm gonna send it to the school. And this is a real big deal. We could call the police on you. So like in that instance, that's not something that's really kind of like far out there for me to do something like that. But it was a situation that was so like offensive that I had to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I will go there and do that.
I think that's a good one. And when it's something that lights a fire under you, and like also you'd see, I remember, and I'm still so proud of this, and I did it when I was quite young too, and my mum were still working in the library, and they had these like free. This is how old this story is. They had those free discs in the library that like helped you get online.
Yeah.
You know, like take this to get 1 month, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And there was like, and I was just in the same mom.
Like for AOL or whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
I remember that. I totally remember
that. And there was a kid just in front. Like,
God, Andy, that's so funny. I totally forgot about that. Like,
I know.
They were everywhere.
They were. The library had like a big stack of them, and I just saw the kid running. He goes like, and he was like, chuckling, and he just like grabbed like all the discs, and was just about to walk away, and I was like, you don't need all those, do you? And I think he was, and I remember I was so pleased with how well I handled it. I didn't shout at him. I was just like, you don't really need to take all those, do you? And he's like, no. And he put them back, and he took one, and he left, and I was like, yeah.
So I got super drunk again with my best friend at some bar in college, maybe. Mm-hmm. No, I think we might have been out of college by that point. But it was like this artist that she really loved, and I was like, oh, this poster on the wall, and I was like, I'm gonna totally jack that for her. And so I'm
Mm-hmm.
like taking the poster off the wall, and the guy comes up to me that works at the bar, and he's like, Keller Williams, this artist, actually pays to print those and like sends them to us. So you're like stealing from the artist when you're taking that. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, I'm so sorry. I'm the worst human ever. Like, thank you for like, not, I'm just like, I'm so embarrassed and so ashamed. And he's like, you can have it, but like,
Just remember.
think about, yeah, just, and like, I carry that with me.
That rocks. And like, that's such
I
a
know.
cool way for that guy to have or guy or girl to have handled that. You know what I mean? And it's the best way.
Totally.
Because
Yeah. I was impressed with that. And I wish that I could handle things like in the heat of the moment like that.
yeah.
Just like with a bigger world view. But sometimes I'm just like, I can't, I'm like a small, flawed human.
I hear you. It makes me like wonder how people, I mean, like, work in, law enforcement and things like that, and those sorts of things where this is such a big part of the job, or
Yeah.
like security guard or whatever. I mean, I wonder whether they come into it with mindsets like that, or whether they, like, kind of, just develop that over time with doing the job.
I think there's a certain temperament you need to have to work in law enforcement.
Yeah.
And one of my friends is the deputy for the sheriff in the town over. And like, he is the calmest dude ever.
Mm.
And I'm like, we need more of you on the force because he's just so. And I have one of my joys, I'll tell you later, is an experience that I had with him over the weekend.
Okay, nice.
Just being like super chill and cool and awesome. But yeah, it's like when that's your job is to deal with like, that's your job is to be confrontational and deal with people that are confrontational and like are getting in trouble all the time. I may ask him like, what it's like.
Because like I'd be very curious to know.
And it's he tells me stories too, and he's like, there's certain times of days where, or like if he'll work like day, swing, or night shift, and he alternates every 4 months. So he's like, night shift is actually great because like, most people are sleeping. It's usually like if it's got to be a really big deal for someone to be calling us or to need our assistance or to be pulled over, but also like, oh God, I have to work Halloween,
Yeah, that must be.
And I want stories.
Absolutely. I think that's I think the sign of a good police officer or a good security guard that works rather than a bad one, in that if you can confront and then de-escalate, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you've got the skill to kind of do that, that's, which is, I think more rare. Yeah, interesting. I have friends who work in a similar sort of field, so I must ask them as well. And they are, by and large, not people I would think of as confrontational. They're probably not people I'd want to fuck with, but also not people who are like going to cause shit.
Yep.
I don't want to fuck with anybody, honestly, but especially not them. But yeah, I suppose I'm looking. Do you have any memories of other particularly bad confrontational moments?
I mean, I do. Some of them I don't feel comfortable talking about. But I would say the one I have the hardest time with currently is related to like anything that has to do with my kids.
Of course.
And like, we were at a birthday party for one of their friends on Friday night, and the brother and sister like just don't get along. And like, so they're like watching that confrontation between the two of them, and I'm like, if our kids were like this all the time, like I'd be like,
your nerves would be frayed.
It would be really difficult. Like we work really hard to have like a peaceful house, and so just seeing like being in another person's house and seeing kind of like how they live, and when one gets hurt, the other one's like, haha, you're stupid, and I'm just like, oh my God. So we had some definitely like, we had a big hard conversation on the drive home, and like, the kids were like, wow, we noticed this and we noticed that. We noticed this. And I was like, well, what do you think about that? And like, you know, how do we do it differently in our house? And like every house is different, but it makes me sad to see that. And I'm friends with the kids' school nurse, and I went in the other day and she had a weird look on her face, and I was like, are you okay? And she's like, yeah. She's like, but my job is hardest when, like, right now there's a kid in my office and he's hurt because his parent hurt him.
Oof.
And like, I'm a mandatory reporter. That's the thing we have in the United States. Like, if you see any signs of abuse, you have to report. Sorry, this is going like real dark.
Yeah.
But, you know, like that is part of her job. She is a nurse. She does see, you know, that type of thing happen. And like, I can't imagine that being part of like my week.
No.
You know?
I wonder how, you know, people who, I mean, you know, when that's a part of your job, I suppose it's necessary that you really kind of separate work from life. But I mean, certainly I would really struggle with that. I don't know whether some people are genuinely good at it or whether they've just got coping systems. But yeah, it's you know, one of the reasons why people in those roles should be showered with riches, as far as I'm concerned.
I absolutely agree. It's like people that work with children
yes.
in that capacity, and people that work in like hospice care.
Yes. Or nurses, or any of those things. Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like angels on earth.
Yeah, they
literally.
are. And I suppose I guess it's probably similar to this country where in fact the actual reality is they are deeply underpaid for what they do. Yeah,
they are so underpaid. Yeah.
Yep. That's what a wonderful world we live in.
I know. Have you had anything recently that you've had to deal with?
No, I was trying to dig through my brain in terms of ones like the one that I really
text that you got.
Oh yes,
you were telling me off pod. Yeah,
that just I think just there's an extremely triggering. The word that I find extremely triggering is disappointment or disappointed, and I got that from somebody I was working with. I'm already considering moving away from one of my roles, let's say, and there was somebody who I had a conversation with, was trying to help them out. Wasn't able to make it work, but with plenty of warning on my side, and they got a bit sort of confrontational and aggro about it with me, and like I as always I will be honest. I will not be like shitty back to them. There is part of me initially, especially texting, I'm like, do I want to be an asshole? Be like, oh well, that's how it goes. But very much I'm just like, look, I said I didn't make any guarantees. I said I would try my best. As it turned out, I couldn't help out in this occasion. I am honestly very sorry, but you know, I have to honor the original booking that I had. You know, that sort of thing. And I mean, and then I got no response to that. You know, but like I was. It's one of those things where it kind of like stayed with me over the next kind of day, but then like I woke up a few days later and I was like, oh yeah, that thing happened the other day and now I don't care about it.
Yeah.
You know? But instructive, you know? That just helped me kind of solidify my thoughts on a certain path that I'm taking right now, you know, in terms of one of the roles. I'm thinking about just slowing it down a wee bit.
Yeah. Mike had a fun confrontation. The Monster Mash that I was talking about, and he was like managing like one of the carnival games, and this kid, did I tell you this already?
No, I don't think so.
This kid was like throwing the ball as hard as he could, and he was like jumping inside. It was like one of those like basketball hoops, so you can't really get in it, right? You want to throw the ball into the hoop and then it rolls back down and you pick it up. And then he was like throwing the ball and trying to like hit other kids, and Mike was like, please don't do that, all right, like give me the ball. And the kid's like, no, I'm not giving you the ball, like, I'm just like trying to play the game. And Mike's like, no, you need to give me the ball. Like, I've already asked you, and you're trying to hit other children. He's like, this kid is like maybe 4th grade. So like 10 is like, why are you getting in my face? And Mike's like, are your parents here? And he's like, no. And he's like, all right, like, let's go talk to the principal. And the kid's like, oh. And so the kid like went and got the principal, maybe trying to get Mike in trouble. And was like, this guy totally like tried to get in my face and like tried to take the ball from me. And Mike's like, if I was going to try and get in your face, you would know it. You were trying to hit, you were trying to hit another child. I asked you for the ball back. That's what happened. But Mike's been talking about it for like a week and a half. He's still talking about it. Like, it affected him so much. And he's like, yeah, is that this, now we know the kid's name. And he's like, yeah, is that fucking, what's his name? And like,
But it's that adrenaline
that fucking kid, fucking little asshole.
Like, I am pretty sure if this is the kind of kid that's pulling shit like that, the principal has an idea of who this kid is and what his deal
everybody
is.
The whole staff, So, right. But it was just like, that one. But it was just funny that like, it affects him.
Yes, it does, and it stays with you,
As much and the kid's 10 years old, and he's still like rambling about it, muttering as he's like pacing around the house.
So relatable, truly.
Yeah, I know. I hate confrontation.
Yeah, it's the worst. So, in summary, everyone, confrontation fucking blows. Don't.
Well, I think
confront us.
Just like don't. Yeah, please don't come at us. Oh God. Oh God.
We'll
but more so, like, if you need to have a conversation with someone.
Yeah.
Like, do it like the guy from the bar, and like. Yes. Look at the bigger picture and come at it with kindness and loving words and
exactly
hugs.
So like, and I think in terms of what I was saying, like, confrontation is a failure of communication. I truly believe so. I think that it should only happen if you can't say things in a kinder way. If you can't, you don't know where people are coming from, what their experiences have been, and blah blah blah. So like, just be like, okay, come on.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Be cool.
Yeah.
Be cool.
Be cool. Come on. So yeah.
It was a really hard conversation to have.
Wasn't it? I know. So what
God, it's over.
Why did I choose this as our topic? What an idiot. Okay, so Beth's gonna confront me about this topic that I chose.
Yeah, Andy. Like, what the fuck? This is worse than loneliness.
Oh no! What about
No, you're fine.
I mean, like,
you did good.
I mean, like, manically folding a piece of paper as we've been having this conversation.
I've been like playing with my watch and like taking it off, putting it on, clicking it, unclicking it. Like, my palms are a little sweaty.
Absolutely. So like, I guess I was gonna say you can tell us about your confrontations at home, but just tell us about the chill ones where it had like a good sort of overall ending, or don't at all.
Yeah.
Either or.
Just send us nice things.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm curious. Like, what idiotic interactions have people had?
Yeah.
I'm curious. Tell us.
Please do. Okay. So in that case, and like, because we need this now, obviously, Beth, what's been bringing you joy this week?
Okay, so we went to a Halloween party on Saturday that our friends had, and one of the people who had through the party was my deputy friend. So Mike was dressed up as like a wolf, and my friend was dressed up as one of the characters from Talladega Nights.
Nice.
And Mike has a hard time being social sometimes, and like he'll need a little bit of liquid. He needs to be a little bit inebriated in order to like chit chat with people and have like meaningless conversations. And so I was the designated driver. He never lets loose. I was like, go for it. They had a pool. They had like lights everywhere. There was like a trampoline, kids running, food, alcohol. It was fun. But like towards the end of the night, my deputy's friend's like, hey, have you ever used a breathalyzer? Mike's like, fuck no, I haven't. The guy's like, you want me to get it out? See what you blow? Mike's like, fuck yeah, I do. So like, I have a photo of like them dressed up. One of them wearing like sponsored by Wonder Bread, like racing outfit, so and Mike dressed like the wolf, like totally like breathalyzing him. It was so funny. Like Mike's blowing. He's like, and like my friend like switches on like deputy mode. He's like, keep going, keep blowing, keep blowing. Like you can totally tell. He like just like goes right in, and like Mike blew a .18 or something.
Okay,
it was
nice.
like, yeah, so definitely. And he was like, I'm not driving. My friend's like, yeah, I know, man.
In case it was
obviously.
It was like a sting operation.
Yes.
I love it. That's okay.
I know, it's pretty funny.
That's the best abuse of police powers, is just having fun with breathalyzers.
I know.
That's great.
I know. It's pretty great having a friend like that. So.
Yeah, it's great. I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. What about you? What brought you joy?
So
I'll send you the photo. It's pretty.
Please
funny.
do. Yeah, I do. I will. Yeah, I want to see. I want to see those costumes. Yes. Okay. And I started to listen to this whenever I was out with you, but like I have been like completely obsessed with the Seth Meyers Lonely Island podcast.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, it's so good.
Okay.
Like, do you know what I really love about it? It's great.
Anything he does.
Yes, and like they're all great. Like all three of them, all four of them, they're just nice guys, you know, and like they like rag on each other, but they clearly love each other, and so on and so forth. But what I really particularly enjoy about it is that they talk a lot about, like, so basically the podcast, what it's about is that they're going through all of the sketches and digital shorts they did in their lifetime through SNL.
Wow.
And
how lucky
I know
are we?
Right? And they really are, they make fun of them. They absolutely talk about how bad some of them are, and they are very self-effacing in terms of going, this sketch, the one that we tried to get on for years, we wish hadn't got on, was in our writing packet that we submitted to SNL, and we still got a job. So if you're out there and you're writing, listen to this piece of shit that we put together and know that you can do it. Anybody can do it. If we did it, you can do it. So like, I thought that was a really good message to have, you know. But yeah, it's just a nice time. They're all like, they're great fun. They like aren't afraid of criticizing each other. They aren't afraid of like having a bit of fun with each other. It's just, it's really nice.
It's so good. All right, so everyone listen to their podcast and ours.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. Only those two for now.
For now, yeah.
Until we do a spin-off podcast. I've said like 3 or 4 different ideas to Beth.
I know. They're good.
We don't have time.
I know. That's the thing. You need to do less of the things that you do so that we can do more of this.
I'm working on it.
I know.
All right. Okay, so Beth, can you tell everybody where they can find us?
You can find us at bendypodcast.com.
Mm-hmm.
And we can route you from there to all of the things.
Everything. Okay, folks. And in that case, we'd like to remind you, as always, to stay bendy.
That was like the most vocal fry I've ever done. Sorry, everyone.
Lucky you.
Yay. Love you guys.
Love you. Bye.
Bye.